Unveiling 7 Sinister Secrets. Terrifying tales from mediums who communicate with the cursed dead. Liz stood behind the counter of the diner, the hum of conversation and the clinking of silverware creating a false sense of security in the normally idyllic suburb of Maplewood. But as she wiped down the table, the shadows around her seemed to whisper dark secrets. It had been 3 long months since her husband vanished, and now, in the stillness of night, paranoia gnawed at her insides like a rabid animal. Each passerby seemed to hide a dreadful truth behind their cheery facade. This wasn't just an ordinary town, it was a breeding ground for nightmares. That evening was thick with an agonizing atmosphere. After serving her last table, her cell phone buzzed with an unusual vibration. She squinted at the screen, a medium, of all people, claiming she had a message about her husband. Liz's heart pounded. Standing there, with the diner's flickering fluorescent lights casting strange shadows, she reluctantly picked up the phone. "I have something important to reveal," the medium's voice crackled, low and haunting. "Maplewood is cursed. There are 7 spirits that haunt this town." Liz's breath hitched as the woman recounted terrifying tales, each more chilling than the last. A child who saw his own reflection twisting and laughing in the mirror. A neighbor whose laughter had turned sour, leading to laughterless home after laughterless home. These whispers twisted with images of her life, infiltrating her dreams with dread. Maplewood, the seemingly perfect community, was a mask hiding unthinkable horrors. The stories lingered like smoke in the air, and that night, tension tightened around Liz's heart. What harm was lurking beneath this surface? Each tale spoke of families stained with secrets. The retired teacher down the street, kind and gentle in public, was revealed as a predator. His children's laughter twisted into horrible sounds no mother should ever hear. The hairs on the back of Liz's neck prickled with a cold realization. These weren't just stories. They were truths that connected her neighbors to the spirits haunting her dreams. Before she could forget, the words echoed in her mind: the playground and the church. So, with a courage she barely felt, she ventured out, wrapping herself in her fear like a blanket. The moments stretched, dark trees standing sentinel around the forgotten playground, their gnarled limbs reaching out like bony fingers against the silvery glow of the moon. As she approached, an eerie stillness settled. Just beyond the rusting swings, unearthly whispers curled around her. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Liz's heart raced. She stepped closer to the rusted slide, adrenaline pumping through her veins. It wasn't just the playground. Another darkness was buried within the abandoned church nearby. Its doors swung on creaking hinges, inviting, yet foreboding. With every step, echoes filled her mind. Desperate cries for help mingled with sinister laughter. Was it the spirits, or her own memories of her husband beckoning her forward? But even in the quiet moments, Liz could feel the suffocating weight of her surroundings, as if the very walls of her home had turned against her. Every creak, every rustle in the night pulled her deeper into a nightmare. The fog thickened, and as she stood at the heart of it all, something beckoned from the shadows. Then she heard it, the soft whimpering of a child. The sound came from the playground, pulling her towards it. "Help me!" The voice was desperate, trembling with the cold of fear and something darker. Liz's stomach dropped. Was it real, or was her mind betraying her again? Just then, a figure emerged in the dim light, dark and cloaked. The air around her frosted, scenes of horror marching through her brain as Liz screamed. The sound escaped her lips, a raw and chilling sound that echoed, but then it was abruptly cut off. The world around her faded, swallowed by the consuming darkness, leaving only the lingering question. What waited in that shadowy embrace? She braced herself. What unseen force was about to reveal itself? The darkness enveloped Liz like a thick fog, swirling around her limbs, suffocating her senses. She could no longer tell where the ground was, or if she was even still standing. Her heart hammered against her rib cage, pounding a frantic rhythm that echoed in her ears, drowning out the whispers that seemed to grow louder, more insistent. Suddenly, the coldness lifted slightly, like a breathtaking form. The figure was closer now, its shadow flickering in the dim light. The cloak billowed like smoke, sending a shroud of dread across the playground. Liz's pulse raced. Was this the spirit the medium warned her about? Was it even a spirit at all? "Help me," came the small voice again, more desperate now, pulling at her heartstrings. But the echo of her warning screamed louder. Could she trust it? Could she afford to take another step into the grip of darkness? She stood frozen, struggling against the weight of uncertainty. The figure twisted, its features indistinguishable, but Liz felt an urge rising within her, an undeniable need to reach out. "What do you want?" she managed to utter, her voice faltering against the fear biting at her throat. "Save me," it whimpered again. "They want tea, let me go." The pitch of the child's voice crashed into Liz's chest, reverberating through her bones. Memories surged forward. Her husband's smile, the laughter of children echoing in the distance, the warmth of a summer day. How could this child be trapped here, imprisoned by the same shadows that suffocated her? Taking a trembling step forward, she squinted into the gloom, desperate to see what lay ahead. The playground creaked ominously, the wind rustling through the leaves, cryptic laughter swirling with warnings. Then, abruptly, the figure lunged towards her. And in that moment, Liz realized it was not a child but something masquerading as one. "No!" she screamed, stumbling back as the shadowy form morphed and elongated, revealing a face twisted in agony. The eyes, black holes of despair, bore into her soul. Before she could react, the figure reached out, cold fingers grazing her arm, sending a jolt of icy fear through her veins. In that instant, she could feel its pain, the crushing weight it carried. A darkness born from atrocities left unavenged. A flash of images assaulted her mind, screams in the night, flickering lights, families torn apart. All of it tied back to Maplewood, a town steeped in shadows. She could feel the words of the medium wrap around her once more. "Maplewood is cursed." As the figure drew closer, Liz turned to flee, her heart thunderous, breath sharp and ragged. She raced toward the church, the ground uneven beneath her feet, but the air felt charged with a force she couldn't shake. There was something inside, maybe safety or maybe more horror. She had to know. Would she find her husband? Or was this a step into a greater, unfathomable darkness? As she threw open the church doors, they groaned in protest. The musty air hit her, thick with secrets. A dissonant choir of voices filled the space. The cursed souls of Maplewood awaited her. What awaited Liz within those walls was the fate of all who entered. A chance to confront the truth or become another lost whisper in the wind. "Help me," that chilling voice echoed once more, drumming in her ears, as the shadows thickened around her, blending the past with the horrors of the present. What had she just unleashed? And what would she have to sacrifice to find the answers she sought? Liz's mind raced, torn between the light promised inside and the darkness threatening to drag her back. Would she have the strength to face the truth, or would it consume her whole? With a final flicker of hope and dread, she took a step inside, unaware of the waiting specter behind her, whispering dreadful truths that would taint her dreams forever. The air inside the church swirled with a heaviness that seeped into Liz's very soul. Shadows extended, pulsing with a life of their own, whispering secrets she wasn't sure she wanted to hear. The floor beneath her felt cold, and with each cautious step, she could hear the boards creaking under her weight, echoing a warning rather than a welcome. "Help me," it was unmistakably louder now, rising above the whispers. The sound was like a blade cutting through the static of her thoughts, sharper than the conflict brewing in her heart. Liz turned, catching a glimpse of movement out of the corner of her eye. Shapes hovered just outside her line of sight, figures lost in the gloom. She blinked, squinting against the murky light, but every time she tried to focus, they melted away, only to reform in a different corner of the church. Fear wrapped around her throat like a vice. Was she alone? Or were they watching her, waiting? Stay, a soft voice whispered, deceptively gentle, curling into her ear. But it wasn't the childess she had heard outside. No, this one was darker, a tone laced with malice. She shivered, backing away slowly. Who's there? Her voice cracked, echoing in the vast emptiness that seemed to swallow any courage she had left. A flicker of candlelight danced on a figure a few rows ahead, and for a heartbeat, she thought she saw her husband's silhouette, tangible and real. Hope ignited within her chest, but it quickly faltered as the shadow shifted, contorting and growing grotesque. The moment she blinked, it disappeared, and despair flooded in its place. Liz sprinted forward, desperate to find the truth before whatever lurked in the church could devour her too. The altar loomed ahead, wreathed in shadows thicker than the surrounding darkness. She could barely make out the outline of a cracked cross hanging ominously above. The whispers intensified, sweeping over her like a wave. Save us, they pleaded, raw and filled with anguish. You must, she hesitated, haunted by the thought. Save them? From what? The horrors that bound them here, or the weight of her own inadequacy? Leave now, another shadowed voice joined in, this one bitter, an edge of anger slicing through the plea. Run while you can shut up, Liz yelled, the words bursting forth unexpectedly, throwing off the heaviness. Instinctively, she raised her hands in protest, searching for something amidst the shadows. There had to be a reason she'd come here. She could feel it clawing at her insides, a pull to uncover whatever twisted truth lay hidden. And then it happened. A spark of light broke through the darkness, a single beam, illuminating a stained glass window covered in grime. The colors glowed faintly, weak but beautiful. As it revealed scenes of joy and celebration, unease snaked back into her heart. The more she looked, the more twisted the images became, morphing between grief and violence. She could almost feel the resurrection of a forgotten tale, echoing pain that begged to be acknowledged. Help us, heal us, the chorus compounding, the figures forming faces that bore her likeness. Her breath hitched. They weren't all strangers. They echoed lives lived decades ago. Entangled with loss and betrayal, a rasping sound pulled her back. She turned, and her heart plunged into an abyss as she faced the being that emerged, shadows molded into flesh. No longer just an apparition, but a creature forged from sorrow. It wore the faces of the lost, their eyes hollow, devoid of hope. Join us, it hissed, extending a hand, skeletal and twisted. Liz stumbled back, mind spinning. Join them? It was more than an invitation, it was a demand wrapped in desperation. As she reeled, a memory flashed. Her husband's laughter, the promise of happiness before it all fell apart. Would she be able to survive this horror and unseal the grim fate awaiting her in Maplewood? She took a deep breath, heart racing, knowing the truth awaited her. What do you want from me? Liz shouted, her voice barely above a whisper yet strained with determination. The creature stepped closer, shadows whispering, everything. Before realization could fully set in, the ground shifted beneath her as the church began to tremble. A cacophony of anguished cries enveloped her, drowning her senses, leaving only one terrifying thought. Could she escape before the darkness swallowed her whole? What had she just unleashed? As the walls began to crumble around her, Liz felt a surge of dread. Would she conquer her fears or serve as yet another sacrifice to the twisted remnants of Maplewood? Liz braced herself as the walls around her quaked, rusted bolts creaking ominously. Dust fell like rain, swirling in the light as it flickered, the candle flames wavering against an unseen breeze. This wasn't just an invitation to join. It was a harbinger of destruction, and she had become the unwitting catalyst. Run! The command crushed through the whispers like thunder, pulling her from the grip of that skeletal figure. She spun, her heart pounding in erratic rhythm as she fled toward the entrance. But the air was thick and heavy. The church had transformed into a labyrinth, one designed to ensnare her and keep her inside forever. Shapes darted behind her as she ran, phantom fingers brushing against her skin like icy tendrils. Each gust of wind seemed to carry the agonizing wails of the damned, calling out not just as victims, but as accusations. She pushed herself harder, ducking through a narrow aisle, her mind frantically racing. What would the spirits of this church demand? The question gnawed at her, urging her to remember why she had entered in the first place. And then, it hit her husband. A promise, a connection unbroken even by death. She had come here searching for him, not to save the lost souls, but to find a sliver of hope amidst the despair. Could he still be here, trapped in the abyss? Stumbling, she caught herself against a pew, its surface splintered and cold. She had to focus. She thought of his laugh, the warmth of his hand, as she turned to confront the shadows gaining on her. "I'm not afraid of you," she screamed, but her voice trembled, betraying the fear weighing her down. A crashing sound reverberated through the church, echoing like a death knell. The shadows congealed, swirling and twisting, morphing into twisted faces that reflected her deepest regrets. "You cannot escape the past," they hissed, their words a chorus of bitterness and loss. She saw it then, a flicker of light among the darkness, a glimpse of her husband's face. It was fleeting, but the look in his eyes was unmistakable. He was trying to reach her, amidst the chaos. This was not just about saving the souls bound to this place. It was about saving him. A wave of determination surged through her. "Hold on," she shouted, and charged toward the altar, ignoring the screeches that filled her ears. The wind intensified, whipping at her hair, threatening to drag her down, but she pressed on. Liz could feel a force, a pull, drawing her toward the stained glass window. The colors shimmered against the dark, revealing more than just memories. They depicted a scene of redemption, a battle fought in harmony between light and dark. A flicker of hope ignited in her heart. The church, a vessel of despair, was also the gateway for rebirth. With every ounce of strength, she reached the base of the altar. Looking up, she saw not just her past but paths of others, their lives intertwined with hers, and a dawning realization flickered like the candlelight. She could honor them, acknowledge the pain, and in that acknowledgement, perhaps she could break the cycle. "Everyone," she breathed, raising her hand, "I remember you. I won't let you suffer in silence." As the words filled the air, the whispers transformed. No longer screams of anguish, but a cacophony of acceptance. A shift began, the shadows faltered, and in their place, a warm light radiated, illuminating the faces of those trapped. But as the light grew brighter, the darkness surged back, furious at her defiance. "No, you don't get to leave." The once skeletal figure leapt toward her, eyes ablaze with rage. Liz gasped, heart racing, realizing the battle was far from over. The ground trembled beneath her, but now she was not alone. The lost souls started to materialize around her, their expressions a mix of anger and liberation. Yet just as she felt a flicker of triumph, the sanctity of the moment shattered. The church shook violently, dust spiraling into a storm, blinding her. The whispers crescendoed into a roar, drowning her thoughts in chaos. Then everything went silent. What was left behind? Was it the light of salvation, or had she awakened a deeper horror? The darkness loomed large, wrapping around her like a shroud. Would her newfound connection be their salvation or her doom? Liz stood at the precipice of a choice, one that could alter the fate of Maplewood forever. The silence was suffocating. Liz blinked through the swirling dust, trying to steady her breathing. Was it the calm before the storm, or the end of all storms? She steadied herself against the rough wood of the altar, the familiar chill creeping up her spine like the touch of a loved one long lost. As her vision began to clear, the spectral faces surrounding her dimmed into shadowy outlines. They flickered in and out, a beggar's plea, a child's whimper, the terrified gaze of a woman caught in a web of suffering. Liz could feel her heart race. They weren't just trapped. They were desperately seeking something from her. Helpless, a voice trembled, almost too faint to hear, yet it resonated deep within her. Liz turned toward it, the urge to reach out pulling at her very core. She shook her head, trying to clear the fog settling in her mind. She wasn't here to be their savior. She was here for him, her husband. But there was no denying the weight of their despair. With a deep breath, Liz forced her focus back to the stained glass window above. The colors flickered differently now, swirling in a tempest of hue. She leaned closer, her fingers brushing against the edge of the altar. Beneath her touch, the stone pulsed with warmth, a heartbeat of its own. The more she touched it, the more she could feel the energies of the lost souls intertwining with her. "What do you want from me?" she shouted, desperation threading her voice. "Tell me." The whispers rose again, crashing against her like ocean waves. "Your pain, your loss can set us free." A sudden rush of air pushed against her, and she staggered backward. Behind her, the skeletal figure now loomed larger than before, its gaze heavy and accusatory. "You cannot escape what you have done." A sudden realization surged through her. The church wasn't just a place of torment. It was a prison forged by guilt, regret, and unspoken farewells. The souls didn't just want saving, they needed understanding, recognition. "I'm sorry," Liz cried out, tears prickling her eyes. "I've lost someone too. I understand your pain." The shadows paused, and for an instant, she swore she could hear them inhale as one, a collective sigh of longing and sorrow. From deep within the pulsing stone at her fingertips, she felt a connection, a pulse that quickened in response to her empathy. It was as if the church itself was breathing, recognizing her truth. "I will remember you," she said firmly. "You will not fade into silence." And in that moment, a flicker of hope ignited in the dark. The shadows around her drew closer, forming a protective circle. The darkened figures now bore faces that shimmered with a glint of warmth, as if her words had momentarily fractured their despair. But the skeletal figure roared, a sound that echoed like thunder through the church's walls. "You cannot bargain with the dead. They are bound. You are bound." The ground wrenched beneath them, and the light sputtered. Chaos erupted like a breaking dam. Liz felt the pressure building, and instinct kicked in. She needed to act, and fast. Thoughts raced through her mind. What if this was the key? What if by honoring them, she could unlock the door to her husband, her salvation? "Tell me how to save him," Liz demanded as she gripped her hands into fists, adrenaline coursing through her veins. "What do I need to do?" With all her might, she focused on the spirits themselves, the faces of pain surrounding her. The whispering had started again, but now their tone was different. It was urgent. It was alive, and it was creeping closer. Suddenly, a shrill shriek pierced through the air. It sliced through her consciousness like glass. Liz winced, clutching her ears as the world turned violent, shadows lunging toward her once more. Just when Liz thought she might succumb to the madness, a distant memory called to her, her husband's gentle smile. She grasped at that glimmer, her fingers stretching through the clutches of despair surrounding her. Was it too late, or could she still reach him? The shadows drew nearer, their fingers like knives. "You're running out of time," the voices hissed, taking a menacing tone as the ground quaked beneath her. Tension crackled in the air, thickening like storm clouds before a hurricane. The church wasn't just pleading for relief, it was channeling an ancient power, ready to either drown her in darkness or set her free. Would she take the leap into the unknown or let fear consume her completely? As the shadows reached for her heart, Liz's gaze shot to the pulsing altar. Was that her salvation or her final doom? Liz's heart pounded as the shadows encroached, their icy fingers brushing against her skin. The fear clawed at her throat, suffocating her cries. She felt a primal urge to flee, to escape the oppressive darkness closing in. But a flicker of determination invigorated her. She couldn't abandon her husband. "Show me," she screamed into the chaos. "Show me how to save him." The shadows momentarily hesitated, as if weighing her desperation. The air thickened, and she felt cold breath against her ear whispering secrets long buried. "Embrace your pain. Only then will he be free." Their words slithered inside her head, igniting recognition. She had spent too much time avoiding the grief that bound her. The shame of failure and the guilt of moving on, these were chains that ruled her existence. "I have to let it in," she murmured, overwhelmed, Painful memories flooded her mind, her husband's hollow gaze as life slipped away, the weight of those final moments. Each fragment brought warmth mixed with a chill, memories entwined with shadows. No, she shouted against the howling voices swirling around her. Not like this. I lost him, but I can't let you take me too. A deafening roar responded, anger erupting from the skeletal figure, skeletal fingers clawing at the air around her. You must choose. Your grief or your freedom. Liz's vision began to swim, reality twisting with every heartbeat. She squeezed her eyes shut, forcing herself to breathe. The tears streamed down her face, the first steps into the storm she'd kept locked away. In that raw moment, Liz felt a surge, a pulsating energy swirling within her grief. It was almost tangible, a tapestry woven with recognition and despair. Stop. She grit her teeth, raising her arms. I will embrace this. I will not let fear dictate my life. The altar thrummed beneath her, resonating with her growing strength. The shadows recoiled, momentarily confused by her defiance. The chill seemed to lessen, replaced by an oddly comforting warmth. Help us, the whispers transformed, an urgent chorus now begging for release. Liz steadied her stance, heart racing with resolve. I am ready. Tell me what I must do. The collective sigh echoed, but this time removing the urgency for escape. Instead, it embraced her vulnerability like a blanket pulled tight against the night. Tendrils of shadows reached out, coiling around her, stitching into her soul. There it was, a soft glow igniting from the center of her chest, flickering with life. The skeletal figure melted back into the darkness, fury churning. You defy the order of the lost. Their fates are not for you to command. But Liz stood tall, feeling the burgeoning strength swell within her. I do not fear you. You have no power over me anymore. With the crescendo of her emotions, she lunged toward the altar. I choose to remember. I honor their pain and my pain. Together we're stronger. The floor tightened underfoot, crackling with energy as the spirits surged, intertwining with her own. Liz felt them, she felt all of them. Their grief mingled with hers, ancient sorrows rising like a mighty tide. At a beam of light shot from the altar, illuminating the church with a piercing brightness. The walls pulsed as if breathing, alive in their own right. But just as hope surged, a violent tremor shook the ground, sending Liz sprawling backward. The church shrieked as shadows writhed, blocking her path. You will pay for this trespass. The skeletal figure screeched, furious and all-consuming. The warm glow flickered, dimming under the weight of the dark. Panic surged again. No, she cried, grasping at the light. Don't let it go out. In that moment, she glimpsed a doorway, a shimmering outline that beckoned amidst the chaos. Was it a path to her husband? Or was it a trap set by the enraged darkness? With a final breath, Liz dove toward the glow, soul screaming against uncertainty. Would she reach him, or would she be devoured by the shadows? Would she emerge from the other side, or be lost in the dark forever? The light enveloped Liz, wrapping her in a cocoon of warmth that felt like a distant memory of safety. The shadows recoiled, snapping angrily, their whispers morphing into howls of rage. The doorway pulsed with energy, sparking hope in her heart as she reached for it with trembling fingers. But as she pressed forward, the brightness wobbled and dimmed. A skeletal hand emerged from the shadows, grasping for her ankle, its cool touch sending a wave of dread down her spine. Liz whipped around, the sensation of being hunted pressing in a desperate urge to escape the relentless darkness. Help us, a voice echoed from the shadows. We are lost like you. Liz flinched, torn between the beauty of connection and the horrifying truth of her situation. Could she trust these voices, or were they another trick of the dark? For a moment, doubt brewed in her gut, leaving her frozen, teetering on the brink. No, she shouted, fighting the fears clawing at her resolve. I won't let you keep me. She charged towards the glowing doorway, heart hammering, piercing the veil of shadows. The light flickered again, but this time it flickered bright, a beacon fueled by her spirit. She could almost reach it. It felt close enough to touch. And then suddenly, She was through. The world flipped inside out. One moment she was engulfed in darkness. The next she was standing on the precipice of a sunlit meadow, warmth washing over her. Liz gasped, choking on the ease, her heart racing with disbelief. But something felt off. The grass was too vibrant, the sky too blue, and a strange silence hung heavy in the air. It was too serene. "Mike," she called, voice trembling, scanning the landscape. There was no answer, only the rustle of leaves, the singing of distant birds, everything idyllic yet suffocating. A chill ran down her spine. There, just beyond the shimmering trees, stood a figure silhouetted against the light. Liz's breath caught, hope stirring anew. "Mike, is that you?" The figure turned slowly. As the sunlight fell upon its face, her heart plunged into her stomach. It wasn't Mike. It was a mirror of him, his hollow eyes, gaunt cheeks, and an expression of unfathomable sorrow. "You came," Liz stumbled back, shaking her head in disbelief. "No, you're not real." "I was real once," the figure replied, voice a hollow echo of the man she loved. "To save me, you must face the truth of your grief. You must decide which bond matters more, the love that chains you, or the pain that sets you free." "No," she cried out, fighting against the morass threatening to pull her under. "I won't give in to despair. I want you back." "Time has passed, Liz. The darkness, it's more than shadows. It feeds on sorrow, and it knows your weakness," the figure warned, fading with each word until he became indistinguishable from the light. Liz fell to her knees, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I can't lose you again, I won't." But as the final rays of sunlight slipped beyond the horizon, darkness seeped back into the edges of her vision. Tendrils crawled toward her, yearning to engulf her. By now, she understood. The shadows were not simply enemies. They were echoes of her own pain, the grief woven deep within her soul. The choice loomed. Embrace the grief she had long avoided, or let it consume her whole. As the cold began to seep into her soul again, Liz felt herself spiraling. Would she let despair carry her back, or seize the light one last time? With a shuddering breath, she steeled herself and whispered into the growing blackness, "I choose love." But in that very moment, the shadows surged around her, a monstrous wave ready to plunge her into the depths of her own despair. "Is that truly the choice you want to make?" The voice resonated with mocking glee as the ground trembled beneath her feet. Suddenly, a flicker of an idea ignited in her mind. "It's not just my choice to make," she murmured, eyes widening. Liz felt something shift in the air. Whispers of many voices rose, mingling with hers. Would they stand with her in the fight to reclaim her love? A new storm began to brew as she gathered her thoughts, teetering on the brink of the unknown. What would emerge from the depths of her heart? And who would truly answer her call in this battle for her soul? The shadows writhed around her, a chaotic tempest that was both suffocating and callous. Liz's heart pounded, every beat echoing in the expanding void of darkness. The air thickened, heavy with regret and despair, threatening to pull her deeper into the sorrow that had long haunted her. The whispers grew louder, a dissonant chorus urging her to abandon hope. "Lose yourself," they hissed, "and join us." "No," Liz cried out, shaking her head violently as if it could empty her mind of the malignant voices. She could feel their icy fingers trailing along her skin, trying to seep into her very soul. Memories flickered like dying fireflies, brief moments filled with laughter, joy, and love. Mike's laughter, his warmth. It was all she had left. As the chaos surged, she fought against the tide with everything she had. "I won't let you take me." Each word became a shield, blocking the darkness encroaching on her mind. The light within her flickered valiantly but dimmed with trepidation. "You won't feed on my grief." Suddenly, the shadows recoiled slightly, as if her defiance struck a nerve. Liz felt the shift, a small crack in their relentless advance. "Find us," a softer voice pleaded, barely a whisper in the storm. "We are lost, just as you are." She hesitated, caught in a web spun of longing and fear. "Who are you?" she shouted, her voice trembling. Are you real or just another trick? Your pain binds us, set us free, the ethereal chorus implored, the urgency rising. Liz felt the weight of countless souls pressing down on her, their shared anguish palpable. It was an overwhelming testament of love twisted by tragedy. Be careful. Don't give in. A new voice emerged, cutting through the murk, a warning laced with familiarity. It was Mike's voice, echoing like a faint melody from distant shores. Liz's heart clenched. What do I do? She gasped, feeling the pull of darkness mixing with the flickering light within her. Would they guide her or lead her astray? The truth lies buried within, only you can decipher it. The voices echoed in unison, their spectral faces twisting in the shadows. Love and despair are two sides of the same coin. Liz squeezed her eyes shut, trying to drown out the cacophony. Her breath quickened as she clawed back her thoughts. She could not abandon him again. Couldn't he turn away from the bond that tied them? I know what you want, she yelled defiantly, as a surge of warmth ignited inside her. But I won't find peace in your pain. In that moment, she felt a fissure emerge from the darkness, a glimmer of the light that had almost escaped her grasp. It flickered and shimmered, imbued with her essence, her memories of love guiding its form. Do you truly believe you can resist? The shadows mocked, swirling violently as if they sensed their grip loosening. No one escapes the truth. With each word they spoke, something within Liz shifted. Power surged as she focused on the love she carried, the memories of all that Mike had embodied. It became a light, a lighthouse in a raging storm. I choose to remember. I choose to believe, she shouted, the darkness recoiling further. And then, the shadows froze, a ripple of confusion passing through them. For an instant, silence fell, as if the relentless night itself held its breath, and in that silence, she heard it again, his voice, clearer and filled with warmth. Liz, can you hear me? Mike, she whispered, hope igniting a fierce determination within her. The shadows pulsed angrily, sensing the shift. You cannot trust what lies in the light. It will betray you. No, I want to believe that. Liz pressed forward, feeling the strength of the love that bonded their souls. The darkness cracked, revealing hidden fissures, paths that might lead her back to Mike. But would the light be enough? Could love conquer the depths of despair? Or would she plunge into the abyss if she reached out? With one last breath, she called out his name once more. Mike, I'm coming for you. And as she dove into the light, she could feel the shadows closing in, vengeful and relentless. Would she reclaim her love, or be consumed by the remnants of fear? The answer flickered just out of reach, and the storm surged as the shadows howled, growing ever closer. The light enveloped her, expanding like a warm embrace, but the shadows clawed at her heels. Liz could feel the weight of their desperation pressing against her. It was a tangible, suffocating force, urging her to turn back to the safety of the familiar darkness. But she pressed on, driven by the memory of Mike, his face bright and alive in her mind. Hold on, I'm coming, she screamed, her voice cutting through the misty void. The light shimmered, solidifying a path beneath her feet. It twisted and turned, unpredictable but real. If she could only keep moving, the whispers grew louder, echoing around her like 1,000 crows cawing for her surrender. Come back to us, they crooned, their charm silky and sinister. It's easier to join us than to fight alone. No, she shouted, determination flooding her veins. She could hear Mike's laughter urging her onward even through the chaos. You don't know him. You don't know our love. The words became a lifeline, and for a brief moment, the shadows hesitated. The light pulsed, throbbing with life, as if her emotions fed its brilliance. It was a glowing promise of hope amid despair. Yet the shadows were cunning. They crawled slowly around her, whispering secrets designed to twist her heart. You will never find him, they taunted. He has lost, he has gone. You're all alone. A deep chill settled, filling Liz with doubt. Alone. The word wrapped around her, knotting tightly in her belly. But then, she remembered Mike's soothing touch, the warmth of his presence. I'm not alone, she yelled back, anger surging through her. The light brightened in response, illuminating the shifting forms of the shadows. You don't get to take him from me. I will bring him back. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath her feet, a violent disruption of the shadow's hold. The faces of those trapped in darkness emerged around her pale, anguished, eyes wide with sorrow. They reached out, fingers stretching like vines toward her. Help us, they cried, voices blending in a symphony of despair. We are trapped in this torment. You must help us. Liz faltered, her heart racing. What do you want from me? She gasped, confusion clashing with clarity. It was a decision point, a fork in a path of darkness. Help them and risk the connection to Mike, or stand firm and fight alone. Find the truth, they urged, their tones desperate, as hidden in the echoes of the past. She caught a glimpse of his face, blurring at the edges, caught between two realms. Liz, he shouted, and his voice shattered the fog of sorrow wrapping around her heart. It wasn't just about her anymore. It was about them. Okay. Her resolve solidified. I'll uncover the truth, but I will not abandon you. The shadows convulsed in protest, coiling around her thighs like icy serpents. She forced herself to move, risking the tightening grip. With each step, she felt darkness wrestle against her light. She summoned her memories of Mike, their laughter, their plans, the trips they dreamed of letting them fuel the fire within. The warmth spread like wildfire, driving back the suffocating shadows. Remember, they intoned, their voices sinking into chaos. Remember what binds you, love or truth, what will save you. With those words hanging heavy in the air, Liz felt the shadows closing in again, seething with their lost souls. They would not let her go so easily. A flicker of reality pulled at her. The path to Mike shimmered before her, but the darkness lurked at the edges, ready to consume her. Mike, she shouted, launching herself into the radiance that shimmered like distant stars. But the shadows wrapped tighter, coldness biting into her skin. I'll find you. Then, just as she thought she had lost everything, a new voice rose above the din, harsher and filled with rage. You do not know what you are meddling with. The shadows fell silent, sensing a new presence. A figure emerged, dark and imposing, eyes glowing with an eerie, malevolent light. An ancient being, part shadow, part despair, stood in her way. What now? Could she confront this looming threat? Or would the darkness swallow her whole? The air thickened with tension, and the storm of shadows began to swirl again. Time stretched, and Liz's heart raced, the choice looming before her. A final confrontation awaited. Would she be defeated or find the truth? Liz stood, chest heaving, heart pounding like a war drum in her ears. The shadows twisted around her, their oppressive weight closing in. But behind her, the light pulsed, a warm reminder of hope. With every breath, she could feel it, the flicker of love that had illuminated her path from the start. She wouldn't let it die now. Who are you? She demanded, steadying her voice against the darkness. The ancient figure loomed larger, the very embodiment of despair. Why do you want to keep us apart? The being towered above her, its voice a low growl that rippled through her. You think love is enough? Chains you. It holds you here, just as it holds the others. They cannot be saved. Save us, wailed the souls trapped in darkness, their voices an agonizing symphony. You must embody the truth. Find it and we can be free. Silence. The shadow figure bellowed, fury lacing its words. Truth is a double-edged sword. Bend to the chains or perish. Not today. Liz roared, channeling the love she carried for Mike. Love is not a chain. It's a bridge. My grief has bound me. Yes, but I'm not letting it win. The light flickered fiercely, responding to her resolve. The darkness reeled in shock, hesitating. Your choice is foolish, the figure hissed. You think your heart can withstand the truth? I don't just think, I know. With newfound determination, Liz pushed deeper into the light. Images flickered behind her eyes, Mike's laughter, holding hands on warm summer nights, plans for a future together. I'll find him, I'll accept my grief, and I won't bow to despair. Suddenly, the world around her quaked. The shadows surged forward, an avalanche of lost souls trying to reclaim her. But she held steady, her heart racing with the urgency to find Mike. "Help us," they cried again, their whispers desperate, ethereal. "Help us see the truth." With every ounce of strength, she called out, "I will. But I won't abandon the love I had. That is my anchor." The shadows recoiled, and Liz broke into a sprint, moving towards the pulsing light. As she neared, the figures before her twisted into shapes that morphed into Johnson with his gaunt face and mournful eyes. "Mike!" she shouted, reaching out as he flickered elusively. "Liz!" His voice echoed in the chaos, pulling her closer but always out of reach. "You must remember the last moments. Let the grief surge." The shadows wrapped tighter, but she refused to surrender. "Let him go," she screamed, recalling their last laughter together and all the love that couldn't be extinguished. "Let us both go." A moment of stillness fell, and the haunting faces around her hesitated, expressions shifting from anguish to contemplation. "You must embrace pain, Liz. Only then will you remember," they whispered, their tones softer now. With no time to waste, Liz released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "I'll embrace our loss. I'll share our stories. I will carry Mike's memory with me until I can hold his hand again." The light pulsed and shimmered, spreading warmth through her, filling the void with brilliant hope. The shadows hissed in anger, grasping for her, but she pressed on. Then suddenly the darkness shook. A blinding light erupted from deep within, shattering the oppressive shroud. Liz stood unwavering as everything solidified around her, shadows morphing and shifting until they exploded in a swirl of brilliant light bursting forth. "You are defiant," the figure snarled, thrashing against the growing brightness. "Love will blind you." And oh, Liz shouted back, heart on fire, "The truth will guide me." In that moment, every specter around her seemed to converge, building a swirling vortex of love, pain, and acceptance. She could feel Mike's essence among them, and the shadows began to dissolve. "Together we are reborn," she cried, letting the radiant energy course through her. "We will not be crushed under your despair." Then darkness collapsed inward, pulling each shadow into a swirling maelstrom. Liz expanded that feeling of light, pouring everything she had into it. The shadows thrashed, its rage dissipating under the force of their combined love. And then silence fell. Liz blinked, the light enveloping her like a warm embrace. Slowly, she took in her surroundings again. The church transformed. The chains of despair shattered. Floodgates opened. Shapes formed out of the warmth surrounding her, figures merging into one. "Liz," a voice whispered, gentle and familiar, like a song embraced by the wind. She spun around, breath hitching. "Mike." In front of her stood a figure aglow with the warmth of their bond, his smile radiant, and warmth radiating through her body. Every fear she carried fell away at the sight of him. "You found your way back," he said, stepping closer, raising his hand as he cradled hers. "You broke through their chains." Tears streamed down her face, the relentless ache of sorrow finally easing. "I thought I lost you forever. But you never did. You fought. You embraced the truth." The figures around them swirled, laughter bursting forth like a joyful chorus. Liz smiled through her tears, warmth blossoming like spring after a long winter of despair. A final flicker of shadows trembled at the edges of existence but faded against the brilliance. The darkness had no power here anymore. "You were never alone," Mike echoed, pulling her into his embrace, wrapping her in the love they once cherished. "Together again." Together, she breathed, heart filling with gratitude that surged deep into her soul. Maplewood had been conquered by their intertwined fates, their love reshaping its shadows that as they stood among the transformed husks of despair. Liz turned toward the light, the fresh beginning. Their journey had only just begun, but now, they would face it hand in hand, free, and filled with the love that connected them throughout time and beyond. Now, don't forget this moment, and let's keep thriving together. If you want to witness more incredible stories like this, you need to subscribe immediately. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us empower even more people with hope. Flood the comments section below with your reactions and wild theories about Liz and Mike's journey. And please, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to feel inspired by this conclusion. Your support is everything. True fans know the power of community. Let's keep the spark alive together.